What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Stereotherapy. I'm your host, Lisa, and as always, I have my partner in crime, Justine, right there with me. If you're new here, this is the show that showcases the importance of music and mental health. Sometimes Justine and I will share our own stories, and other times we're joined by some wonderful guests. Today, we were joined by Zach Pollack of Old Neon, and this was a really great conversation. We sat down with Zach and learned how music has made an impact in his life, what we can do in terms of mental health awareness in the substance abuse treatment field, which he currently works in. He gave a lot of insight and I think a lot of important things that a lot of us may not realize what we can do to make an impact on another person. So I really hope you take away some of those things we talked about in there. We talked about his wonderful band, Old Neon, that I really, really feel is a band to watch. They bridge the gap of old school pop punk and the new school sound without sounding the same, because as we know in pop punk, that can happen. And I really think they have such a refreshing, fun, energetic sound that I think you'll enjoy too. So I really want you to check them out. Again, such a great conversation. But before we get into that too, I want to say there's a little disclaimer here. So in editing, I noticed that some of the volume was a little low on Zach's end. And I'm not quite sure what happened there because while we were recording, I had my headphones on and was listening to it. It sounded great and fine. Upon editing, I noticed the waveforms were a little low. So after spending a long, long time learning a lot and figuring things out, I got it to a great level to where it won't sound too crunchy on anyone's end, especially if you have it in the car or in headphones. So again, if parts are a little low, just turn it up a little bit. Bear with us during this episode because rather than have Zach come back on and fix that, I just felt like our conversation maybe wouldn't be as organic. And I want to always keep it that way. When we hit record, I want this to just be like we're talking. I want this to be so authentic. So again, just bear with us. I didn't want that to badly reflect Zach or his band because I enjoy both of those things. So yes. And again, this is the part where I'm going to tell you, head over to our website at www.stereotherapypod.com. You can go check out our website, the blogs, the blog for this show, and remember to follow us on any social media outlet you are currently listening to this. It would really mean a lot. You can do that at anyone. There's a little follow button. Any app you are listening to this, it would really mean a lot. And again, if you'd like to leave us a review as well, that would mean a lot too. So just make sure to go ahead and do that. You can also find us on our Instagram at stereo.therapy. Say hi, give us a follow, say you love it, hate it, whatever you want to do, whatever you feel comfortable with. But all right, now that we got that all out of the way, I feel like we can sit down and enjoy this conversation with Zach Pollack of Old Neon. So again, thanks so much. I mean, I love your band so much. So it was like it was so great when I don't know who messaged me, but somebody or who runs your account, but somebody messaged me and they were like, "Hey, if you ever want, like our drummers would love to come on. I've listened to your podcast." I'm like, this is just perfect. I like your band and like someone wants to come on with us. That's so great.
Yeah, I think that was Mike, our lead guitarist, who reached out because I remember he messaged me and asked me if I would do it, and I was like, "Are you sure you want to leave me unsupervised?" But I told him, of course, yeah, I'd love to, and so I'm glad that it worked out.
Oh, awesome. And so I guess for anyone listening to that might, see the title and unfamiliar with you, if you want to give a little introduction to who you are and your band, just so people can get a feel for that.
Yeah, I'm Zach. I play drums in Old Neon. We're a pop punk band out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're for lovers of the old and the new pop punk. We try to bridge some gaps. There's my cat over here. He's going to interrupt us plenty, I'm sure.
That's okay. I have a cat over here.
Yeah, Justine's got one too, so it's perfect. It's always in the background. We love it. The cats, dogs, anyone's all welcome in here, so it's all good. I agree. When I heard your band, I think being in my 30s and loving pop punk or I guess emo, which everyone's calling it these days again, but I mean, any of that, and it's immediately hearing that, you can kind of hear the old sounds, but something new too. And that's what I like about your band is I feel like pop punk in general, that genre, a lot can sound the same, but you guys just have a different sound. I don't know quite what it is, but I'm like, I like this. This is so great to have. And so it's exciting to hear that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of varied music taste in the band, spanning like generations of, our alternative genres, pop punk, emo, the like. And so yeah, I'm glad that it shows because I think that that's part of what we want to do is we don't want to get gimmicky in one sense, and right now I think there's some of that, with your MGKs and whatnot.
Yep.
But we want to we want to make the music that we love, which is pop punk in its purest form, and so that's what we're trying to do.
If you could describe your band in 3 words to someone that's just putting on the headphones, what would those 3 words be?
I would say catchy, energetic, fun, hopefully. Yeah. Yeah, I think that those would be the 3 I'd go with.
Oh, for sure. Like I obviously haven't been able to see you guys play yet. I mean, I'm in Jersey, so I'm like, it's maybe, I'll make my way out there and if you guys are out here, but I saw even from the videos you guys post, I feel that way. Fun for sure. Like you see it and you're like, this band loves what they're doing. They want to have fun. And I think you even see that in the crowd. Like there was a Instagram, like a performance or something you guys did. And I said, like, everyone's just having a good time. So that I would definitely agree.
I'm glad it translates. Yeah, I feel incredibly lucky I get to be with the group of guys that I'm with, because yeah, we do all love it. We do have a ton of fun doing it, and everyone is driven to just be really involved and really invested in it. And so I think that's really what we hope to bring whenever we perform.
Kind of talking about you guys performing, I know recently you guys played the Four Chord Festival. What was that like? And how was that? Like you're sharing the stage and the kind of just festival with so many great bands. Like how was that experience?
It was a total dream for me personally. A bucket list item. I went to the very first one in 2014, which was at Club Extasa, which was formerly Club Zoo, neither of which exist anymore. If there's anything in that space anymore. So one to have been going to the festival for so many years and to see it grow, to then be on the stage, to be on the poster, that at the top of it is Yellow Card, or things that were entirely, I guess, surreal to begin with. Old Neon is my first band that I've ever been in, and so to have the opportunity to open that festival a year and a half after I got on board with it was something that I never thought that I'd have the opportunity to do. So it's been really, really great. And yeah, it was entirely a dream to be able to do that.
Oh, I can only imagine. Did you get to see anybody that was on it? Were there any favorites of yours that day?
Yeah, that day, see, I'm all first, one of my favorites from the second day was Mallory Run. I just have to shout them out because we're close with them. They're from Erie, and they're so great. They opened the second day. Keep Flying is one of my all-time favorite bands. I unfortunately didn't get to see any of their set because as soon as we were done, we were in Operation Get Out of Dodge mode. And so by the time I got all of my gear taken care of, they were wrapping up their set. Yellow Card made the best of what they had because there was tornado that touched down less than 5 miles away, and there were insane rain delays. And they still stuck around to play like an abridged Ocean Avenue set, which was really cool to see. Origami Angel is another favorite of mine. Their set got cut short, unfortunately, but any bit that I get to see them, I'm always 100% down for. They're so great. And I'm sure there's others, and for some reason I'm blanking. The day was a blur. It was
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome though. That's a festival just moving here a couple, not a couple anymore. It's been like 6 years, but moving out here. And then the past 2 years, like that festival is just so stacked with so many cool bands. And I love how there's always something to see, it seems, on that lineup. Even if you know, like just the bigger, like if you only knew Yellow Card, you could go and see people like your band and just be like, oh, well, this fits and this is great. And I can discover some new music because everyone's going to listen to like the Yellow Card or like Gaslight Anthem, as they should. But to discover those new bands, that's so great.
Yeah, it started out as a totally DIY thing, right? To mix
Mhm.
local with touring and artists, that is. And the fact that the festival still sticks to that ethos this many years later, as big as it's gotten, to give bands like Old Neon a space on the bill is so sick. It's really great. I get one band that I just remember that I forgot about, Eternal Boy, who played day one, who Rishi of Eternal Boy is, the guy of Four Chord. He's the guy who started it. He's the guy who runs it now. And for him to still make space for the locals is just really great. There's so many, fests or shows or whatever that grow, they think, beyond the point of needing to give that space to locals. And I guess to have the shot is just really cool. It's a really good thing that they stand by.
Oh no, and that's Eternal Boy is someone I just within the last year got into because I had Cody Ritchie of Goalkeeper on a little bit ago, and big fan of Eternal Boy too, and nothing but great things to say. So I was like, oh, I got to check out this band because I have no idea who they are. And again, so good, and that's good to know they're good people too. That's always a plus.
It's impossible to sum up, like, I guess what Eternal Boy, what Rishi has done for the Pittsburgh scene for as long as they've been around. Because small city, almost almost no scene here compared, if you compare it to like Philadelphia, the New York, the more major metro areas. And still, we carve out our space. There is still a lot of cool stuff going on, despite how small it can be. And so to have people who are willing to amplify that makes all the difference. Because otherwise, we'd be stuck playing house shows forever.
Nothing like a good house show, but still, like it's nice to have that. And again, that just makes me like people like that even more. And those people are so important in a scene. I originally being from Chicago, like that was so important. Those people in the scene that would pave the way and help everybody out and give them a place that's so good. Oh, now I feel like now I got to listen to them a little more.
What do you think has been the proudest moment so far for your band?
What we were just talking about, playing Four Chord. Yeah. Prior to that, I would have said, there's so many. We opened up for Knuckle Puck last November, and that was really, really cool.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was the first moment for me where I was like, I'm opening up for one of my all-time favorite bands. Like, how is this happening?
Mm-hmm.
And earlier this year, we also we played a show to celebrate our record release, and it was at Club Cafe, which is a smaller-ish venue in the south side of Pittsburgh, and we were able to sell it out, and that was weird in the sense that I was like, wait, we're not playing on a sold out show that like someone else sold the tickets to. Like, we sold them, and that was just really, really, really special, surreal to have a very packed room full of lots of friends and lots of strangers as well, which was so sick. So yeah, I would say those would probably be like the top three if I were to give the top three, but Four Chords at the top of it because like it kind of has to be.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, and Knuckle Puck. Oh, another one of like those are the boys from Chicago, so they're doing it up. But so good, and they and we got to talk a little bit about Can't Fucking Wait that came out. Which I've been loving, and it's on like when I go to my Spotify, it's like on that repeat list. It's just such a happy and good record. And I know maybe some people listen like, oh, happy, but it has that happy, I just feel good when it's on. What is the response been for you guys on the other end with people listening to it?
Overwhelmingly positive. Yeah, we've gotten so much good feedback. We've made so many new friends through and because of that record. Not only in the sense of us making it, but also, the people who have started listening to us, who are coming to shows, who come introduce themselves. Yeah, like you said, it has a happier feel to it. And I guess what I really like is that there's also some relatively dark and sad songs that are mixed in as well. But I guess, that's the tune of pop punk, right? The music sounds happy, but the lyrics could be anything but. It's been interesting to see how, we talk to people or we see people online, and there's a wide spread of like, this is my favorite song. One person may love Jumpstart, another person loves Warmer Weather, another person loves What Do You Love. So to have that is really cool, because I guess it shows us that we're doing maybe something a little bit right, that like, there's more than one good song on the record. Because I know me, like, whenever we're making the music, I know, well, I like this sounds good to me. Will anyone else care about it?
Yep.
Who knows?
Oh, I'm sure, because even us with this podcast, it's like, we'll record something like, oh, this is really great. Like, I really like it. Like, I'll even listen to it back where I'm like, okay, does it sound good? This is something that I would go and listen to if I was ever going to, but it's that feeling too. Obviously different than on your end, but it is where it's like, is anyone else going to like this or actually like listen to this? So, but I have to say, like, I love Jumpstart. That's one of my favorite, but, or, what do you love? Like, any of those are just, I don't know what it is. It is such a good record. And I hope that maybe this podcast, this show gets a couple people your way that maybe haven't heard of you. Because I definitely think you're just such a band to watch. I really do think so.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Likewise, I hope that that me being here somehow shuffle some people your way. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. And again, I'm just looking forward to hearing more, because admittedly, I didn't really know about your band until I think, and obviously, like you said, Mike maybe probably followed us, but I was like, oh, who's Old Neon? And I think that was really just, I don't know if it was like the universe working in a way like, hey, you're going to like this. This is your speed. And it just worked out so great.
Yeah. I'm glad. Whatever way works.
Yeah.
Mike is really good at just hitting people up and saying, hey, give us
Mhm.
a shot. And,
Right.
We love him for that.
How do you think music has made an impact in your life? And also, do you have any specific artists that have made an impact?
Is there a time limit to this podcast?
No. No, yeah.
How has music made an impact on my life and any specific artist? Music has been the most impactful thing in my entire life to me, being a person, having any sort of identity that I could feel comfortable with myself. Yeah, like, I grew up listening to, and I listened to the one episode that y'all did on Slipknot, and that made my heart happy, because I was like, I also got hated on so much for wearing a Slipknot shirt to school. Yeah, like, I grew up listening to, to mostly metal stuff, eventually finding my way into pop punk. And I was a lover of music. I was a listener of music, and I didn't really do anything with music. Like, I was just playing drums for myself in my basement. And I'm gonna kind of transfer into like the second part of the question, that like, whenever I found out like what music meant to me and what I wanted it to mean to me, was whenever I first saw 4 Years Strong at a venue that used to be called the Rex Theater here in Pittsburgh. Relatively small room. I don't know, maybe like 400, 500-ish cap. And that was the first time I ever went to a show that wasn't at an amphitheater, that wasn't at, a venue that had a capacity of thousands. And so, of course, that's different, right? Like, we know that, but the first time you go in, you're like, what the hell am I getting into? Music exists here. There's no one here. But yeah, ever since seeing that show, that was in 2014. Whenever I first saw them, they had just come back from their hiatus. And after that, all I ever wanted to do was go to shows and, push people around and get pushed around in like a very small, sweaty room. Um, and yeah, I mean, until I had that, and really until I started playing drums in Old Neon. Um, Prior to that, like my entire identity was wrapped up in going to school because I went to school for a long time, and playing baseball because I played baseball forever. Um, and like that just wasn't cutting it. Like I knew that there was something about myself that like wasn't being accessed, and music kind of gave me that path to express more and be creative and identify with something that was larger and more meaningful than myself. Um, yeah, I think that does it for that one.
Oh, I totally agree with that too with music. I felt like being in high school and going to like my local shows and seeing that existed in that community where, in high school I just didn't, I don't know, I not that I didn't fit in, but I just didn't have that big group that some people had. So when I went to shows, or even when I went to like the city shows, it was like, wow, there's a whole community of people that are like the same as me. And that even though we may come from different like backgrounds or however, we can just go to this like sweaty, dirty venue and have a great time and have this connection. And it can be weekly if it's your local scene or your favorite band's coming. It's just like that to me was like, it's led to so many different things in my life, even finding music. So completely agree with you there and get that.
Yeah, like it's wild how validating it can be to just walk into a room at a show, and feel safe to
Mhm.
express yourself and feel safe to enjoy the music. Did it for me that I could walk into a room. I went to, I would often go to shows alone,
Mhm.
just because I knew that like when I got there, I would feel comfortable in that space. It didn't matter if, didn't have anyone to talk to. It's just the environment created by the music and the other people there made me feel like, yeah, I can just go and enjoy this, and this will be my catharsis. This will be the safe space that I need for, however long until the next show.
Oh, 100%. There's sometimes where it's like, would I go alone to like say a party or something like back then? Maybe not. But again, I would go to alone to shows all the time. Like that's how I met Justine. I know she didn't go alone, but I went alone to see like Circus Survive. And because we were in line together, that's how we met. And it's like I would always go alone and oh, I'm gonna see this kid, or especially Fall Out Boy back home was the best in early days. You'd go and like there were like 10 different people that I knew were going to be there. So it didn't matter, or new people I'd even meet. I'd just be sitting there and getting in line early and never worried, or, oh, this is the Metro. I love this venue. It's okay. Cause like the security now knows me a little bit when I walk in by myself. So it's like that feeling of, I don't know, just that comfort where other places maybe I wouldn't go alone to, but there I still do that all the time. I'm like, I'm not going to let it stop me. If no one wants to go with me, I'll go.
Yeah.
To a little bit. I know in your career right now, I know you're working in substance abuse treatment. The role of mental health in that field, whether it's with who you work with, health.
In terms of, and because how I see mental health interacting, it is always substance use, misuse, and abuse. That is mental health. Times people separate them, which one can. The insurance companies love to separate them, which
Mhm.
is cast me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's so connected, because it has to be. Um, Folks who have difficulties with substances, they have difficulties with substances almost entirely because they have difficulties with mental health. It has the potential to create like a very unfortunate perfect storm, which is eventually, how difficulty, and then they, end up in, a treatment facility similar, mine or similar to mine, where it's very intense. They've lost most everything, and they have to, you know, very resilient and try to put it all back together in a very short period of time, because that's all that insurance might cover them for. Um, as far as how mental health plays in with me as the person who's working in that environment, it's something I have to be very acutely aware of. It's really tough, man. Folks who pretty severe substance use disorders, and whenever they're pretty severe, chronic, they go on for a long time, despite many treatment exposures. And so, I may, work with my folks for anywhere from, a day, if they leave treatment early, or up to 4 months, and enough. And it's really hard sometimes whenever it's not enough. And it's really hard sometimes in treatment whenever and sometimes it's difficult to accept help. And folks have difficulty with that. You feel that because I feel that because, I place exists to try and help you, and we want the absolute best for you. And for whatever reason, it's not happening. Like, how can we make it happen? That stuff for myself, then, that leaks over into the work that I'm doing. It leaks over into the stuff I'm doing outside of work. I have trouble being creative, have trouble making time to get behind the drum kit. And so, yeah, it cannot possibly be overstated how important it is to address, to even just acknowledge that it's a thing. A lot of people don't. A lot of people make other people feel that they shouldn't,
I mean, Justine and I both have so much respect for the work you do, because it's not as someone in their life that has gone through a lot. They've been in, whether it was treatment, and they've finally come out the other side. But just being their friend has been tough to see them in their road they've been in, and other people we've talked to too. So I can't imagine on your end. And again, we just commend you for what you do in that work. Because it cannot, like you just said, you've got to keep a lot of things in check for yourself, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to go home and you're going to do your thing. But if you don't keep yourself in check, and then, I mean, and not saying anything that my job's not rough, but I think working with kids can be rough. But I can't even imagine the mental load it takes to do what you do. So just so much respect.
Thank you.
Like you, we definitely do. And I know the people that you work with probably feel the same, that people like you are what you help a lot of people, And I think some people overlook that too sometimes. And that people like yourself. So it's, again, if you don't hear it from anyone else, you're going to hear it from us, that we respect you so much. So
advice that you can give to us if we know somebody in our lives that are struggling with substance abuse, like how can we help them?
I would say, it starts with making sure they're safe, making sure that a lot of people who have, a severe issue with substance use, they end up homeless, they end up without anything. And so just making sure that someone has at least resources to cover their basic needs, which means like your local crisis center, your local or national crisis hotlines. There's a national substance use kind of like database, if you will, for resources called SAMHSA. Hopefully I don't mess up the acronym. SAMSHA. might be HSA. Acronym sometimes gets me, but anyways, if you Google that, a website entirely dedicated and devoted to resources regarding substance use, whether that's treatment centers near you, whether it's crisis centers near you, whether it's health hotlines near you, whether local or national. They also places that if the person isn't looking to go to treatment, but you want to help reduce harm by way of making sure they have, clean equipment, by making sure they have access to Narcan. All of that stuff is on there. So I would say that's one of the best places you can go to find things, one, that are local. If there's nothing or a few things local, there's definitely going to be national things. I know here in Pennsylvania, Narcan is free. And so you have no use for it. Even if no one has no use for it, getting Narcan is relatively easy. Throw it in your glove box. Just keep it there. You might find yourself in a situation where it might come in handy. Not for you, for someone else. And outside of resources, I guess what individual with personal responsibility can do. Just examine and check your biases and your judgments. The folks who are going through it have been stigmatized enough, and that's one thing that's very simple. Even if you don't know anyone who's going through it, you can do for yourself. Just so you can know where you're at and know that you're working toward being accepting and non-judgmental, and you're going to be there to be able to empathize with someone who may need it, and that's powerful in and of itself.
Absolutely is. Like, I think that's a thing, whether it's mental health or substance abuse, there is so much judgment out there. Immediately they hear someone struggling, oh, well, they're this, oh, well, they're that, or, that they're not trying hard enough. And I think that's such a big problem. And I think I like that idea with having, if you can get Narcan and keep it, and you never know, especially at shows too. I know a lot of times, some shows, I don't know where, but some shows are having access at the venues. I don't know where. I saw something where they want to have that, because you never know. Maybe it's not for you, but maybe someone at a festival, I know Riot Fest is going on in Chicago and things like that. I know they try and have that option there, because you never know when someone may need it. So I think that's so important, if anyone's listening to that, to see like that's something small you can do and just be there for someone else in those moments. So I think that's so important for people to hear, and to not have judgment. I know it's easy to sometimes have judgment, but I just hope more and more people have less and less, because I see it. It's such a huge thing, like whether it is mental health or substance abuse. It's strange. We're still in this time. I think we're getting there, but we're still not all the way there yet, where there's just, I mean, 10 years ago, maybe not even 10, maybe a couple of years ago, if you were on any medication for your mental health, or you were struggling and you were openly like, hey, I'm going to treatment, it seemed everybody had something to say. And I think that anyone struggling does try, and they are trying. And the last thing they need is someone to, say they're not trying hard enough.
Also, I guess one other thing to your point about with Narcan.
Yeah.
I think the other thing, I guess that is worth mentioning, since I'm advocating for people to get it and carry it, it's incredibly easy to use. It's incredibly easy to save a life. The instructions, depending on what type you get, sometimes it's an automatic injection, sometimes it's a nasal spray. Either way, the work is practically done for you. All you have to do is, press a button typically.
Oh, wow.
So it's there's practically no barrier to entry. And so, there's no harm in doing it. It puts you in a position to be able to save someone's life if possible. And so, yeah, it's a good thing to have.
I love that, because I don't think anyone that's been on here yet has kind of, I know we had a previous guest too, and he has talked about a couple of things, but I think it's so great. Each person we talk to has something different to say. And I think what you're saying right there is so important for someone to hear, that it's something free, it's something easy. And it's something that I think I'll make sure I post in our little description about that too, in case anyone like quick listens or something, like, hey, like this, it's so important what you just said. And I think even me, like, it kind of puts me in that place of, I need to be more aware of that too, because again, it's not, maybe I won't have that issue, but if somebody around me I can help, and it's something so little as that, and having that, access to that, that would just be so wonderful. So it's so great. Much. That's,
Yeah,
I
of
love what you
course.
said. I guess just working or in your band, in your daily life, do you use for your mental health? I know some people have said working out or running or their band. What do you do? So maybe if someone's listening and maybe they're trying things and nothing has worked, what do you do to kind of really keep your mental health in check?
Um, that's that's the number one thing. Of course, I'm biased, but I
Mhm.
can't recommend it enough. I think it's great. I think everyone should do it. Maybe even forever. I don't know. Um,
I agree.
yeah, I much enjoy being physically active. I try to go to the gym 4 times a week in an ideal world. We don't live in an ideal world, unfortunately. So sometimes it's a little bit less, but that's one of the most helpful things for my brain. There's also emerging evidence more and more as far as the benefit to being physically active. Whether it's by way of weight training, whether it's by way of walking, hiking. Um, it just shows a lot of benefit, not even just for mood, but also for memory and cognition. We're able to think better whenever we move more, and I think that's pretty great. And so, I know me anecdotally, if I go to the gym before work and I get to work, I feel much more ready to do work. My number one outlet for everything, whether I need catharsis, whether I need to get my brain out of work for a while to just be creative. Going to a show and soaking in the environment, or if I'm playing the show, either or. I mean, those are things that are very helpful for me and my brain. Trying to give myself, the space. Mentioned before that sometimes, it can be difficult working um, with people in the way that I do. And so, um, I hate how self care has become a buzzword. And that also doesn't mean that it's not important. And so the good old self care always comes in handy. There was something else I had, but it left as soon as it entered my brain. If I think of it, I'll interject.
Yeah, no, I love that you said about therapy, because I think that's such a stigmatizing thing these days too. And that's something even me, but I mean, I know insurance has played a role for me, and not going yet, but luckily now I'm in a place where I can, and it's one of the first things on my list of, I, always tell people, look, if I could have, I would have. Now I'm in a position, I'm fortunate enough to start that process. But I think it's important to talk about that, because I think so many people think they can take so many things on their own. And Justine is so great, where Justine's like, Lisa, now that you're in a better position, you need to go and do what you need to do for your mental health. Because I've
I'm
just
like a
been,
pusher for therapists. I'm like,
what,
you need to go to a therapist. I tell everybody.
yeah. And it's so great. It's great to have that. And I think it's, it'll people say, it's okay if you have to go to therapy. We should treat it like, you're going to something, I don't know, that you like to do. Like, don't, let's not stigmatize it anymore. Like, it's 2023. We shouldn't be doing that. So I think that's great in that, because I think a lot of people taking that step is a hard step. And I get that. Even for me. I mean, I know we're on here talking mental health and it may seem like we've got it all together, but Nobody does. We don't.
Oh yeah.
I know I don't. I definitely
Same.
don't have it.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And thank you also for mentioning I get just insurance access, because whenever I said it, I was oversimplified and somewhat in jest, but I mean that's one thing that that's a very real barrier for a lot of people. And so if you can,
Mhm.
of course,
Yeah.
advocate for it all day, all night, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just insane to me that's, and kind of what you were saying with, insurance too. It's crazy to me that somebody can say, oh, well, even if you think you need this or you would benefit, they're going to say, well, no. Okay. And, my fiance, who ran across here earlier, but he getting him access, he had a life-changing accident a couple years ago and needed to attend therapy and still does. But when we didn't find a therapist that worked, but we found one out of network, I mean, we're paying an arm and a leg for it, and will in a heartbeat, because we found an amazing therapist, somebody that's incredible and working with him and fits with him. Cheap. And I get it, but insurance wants to play that role. And, again, we are fortunate enough to make sure no matter what, that he was going to therapy. And it was like, you're going to go to this therapist, you love him. But I think that needs to change for sure, because there's a lot of people that could benefit that, whether they can't or they're not in a position for whatever reason. And I think that's just so important. And I love everything you've said so far. I think listening back to this, it's like people are really going to this, I think, and feel less alone from it. So I appreciate everything you've said.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I hope I know I can get long-winded, and oftentimes I don't think there's much substance to what I say. I'm glad it sounds
No, it does sound good. You're good.
I'm glad that your fiance found the right person as well.
Yeah.
That's such a hard thing to find, like the right therapist.
Mhm.
There's so many, right? And you don't know until you sit down with them, maybe even for a month or more. And it's like,
Yeah.
so that's so important. So important to have relationship. It's the number one most important thing in the therapy, and so that's great.
Yeah, I know, Justine, I know you've had your fair share of that too with therapists.
Yeah.
You told me it
was a very defeating thing, like year after year. I started going to therapy when I was like young teens, and there was just nobody was right. It was either they tried to obviously misdiagnose or didn't on things equally, where it just was like talking to somebody that is completely opposite of you. And I was lucky enough, it's like, well, circumstantially lucky enough that I had a mental breakdown in the middle of my primary doctor's office. And my doctor was like, I know you're going through a lot. We need to get you some help. And immediately, because where I go to see the doctor, everything's kind of all in one building. It's a healthcare center rather than just a doctor's office. So they have they have therapists there, they have psychiatrists, they have primary and sometimes physical therapy people come in there. So it's kind of like a little bit of everything. And they immediately got me in, even though it was waitlisted. So I was very lucky. And then the therapist that gave me has been the most wonderful therapist I've ever had. She got me diagnosed with autism, because nobody would diagnose me with it. My parents were fighting for years, and I didn't know until they told me, and I brought it up to them. And so sometimes I try to remind people it can be very defeating. And if you keep going therapist after therapist and nothing's fitting, the same with antidepressants. I remind people that as well. Sometimes you have to go through a lot before you find the right medication. But you will find the right person that's going to listen, that's going to fit. Because my therapist has been wonderful, and she's helped me with so much. It has been so amazing. And I can't recommend therapy enough.
You're always voice of reason with everybody, and sharing your experience too. And this has been so great, Zach. And we don't want to take too much of your time, but we really do appreciate you coming on and everything. And is there anything with Old Neon that's up ahead? I know there's a Halloween show coming up. I know before we know it's going to be Halloween. But anything kind of in the wings for Old Neon that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I mean we have a couple Halloween shows. We're playing one down in Baltimore with Every Avenue, Eternal Boy. I believe Act 109. One other band. Apologies to that band, but we'll be in Baltimore, Maryland. We've never gone down there before, so we're super excited to play a 6 show down there. Be back in Pittsburgh the following day for our own Halloween show. That's at the Mr. Small's Fun House, and we're very much looking forward to that because we have friends on that one. We got Kings of the Wild Things, who are from Maryland. We got Heading North, which is a brand new band coming out of Pittsburgh that is insane. They put out a debut single a few months ago, and whenever I first heard it, I said, surely this can't be a debut single. It's too good. And they have another song coming out soon I'm really excited for. Main Street Detour, another band we're close with, also on that bill. And then us, Old Neon, of course. I still don't know what I'm going to be for Halloween. So if anyone hears this and has suggestions, find me and tell me what I need to wear. I have no idea. Last year, I was a character from Fortnite and it sucked. I wore this mask. There was no visibility.
Oh, man.
Drums in it, and it was rough, but it was fun, but it was rough. I won't be doing that again. Yeah, we have a couple more shows that are on the books, but that I can't say anything about. And so just look out for the secret shows that will soon no longer be secret. And yeah, I mean, we've started writing for more new music. And so we don't have a timeline. We're just starting to get some demos kind of fleshed out, but yeah, I mean, if you keep your eyes and ears on us, soon we will have some new stuff for you to keep your eyes and ears on.
Awesome. Looking forward to that for sure. And I guess if anyone also wants to find you guys, where's the best way to find you guys?
Best would be Instagram for sure. That's where we do most of our silliness. We're at Old Neon Music. And if you like other social media platforms, we have that same handle across pretty much everything. We're trying to step up our content creation game. So if you like reels, Instagram loves reels.
Yes. I'm learning that, and it's like, oh man, now something else I gotta try and do.
Yeah, if you like reels, we're learning. Come watch our reels. They're like 5 seconds. They're so great, aren't they? We all love them.
Yeah. That's the number one thing with Instagram or even TikTok, because it's like, okay, TikTok, I get enough people like that are interested. In Instagram, sometimes I have to boost, but if I create this reel, I'm like, Justine, I think this reel is going to be good. And then like it's got a, one little heart. It's like, okay, all right, well, I'm trying, I'm learning too. So I feel like it's a process.
Yeah. I wish I knew how the algorithm grabbed onto things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that we have difficulty with, because we're like, well, we want to make things that show people we're a band, and we want to do band things. And then the things that always go crazy are silly memes.
Yes.
Like, hey, I like a meme as much as the next guy, but we're not a meme, we're a band. Listen to us, please, for God's sake.
It's the same thing with us as when we do, like, I'll do our promos or whatever. And I'm like, oh, great. I grabbed this audio. I figured this out. I taught myself this, that great. This is a post, like no interaction. But if I'm like on our little TikTok, I'll be in a car and I'm like, I'm just going to film this and put my old school pop punk on it and whatever. Oh, the interaction is off the charts. I'm like, yeah, but that's not who, like, this podcast. I want you to like see our podcast stuff and interact with that. So I can't even imagine on the band level of that, because it's like, it's the same thing. You're like, you're not that meme. You're not just that funny reel page that people, and those are great for those that do those. But I can't imagine like this new era It's a lot. There's a lot to navigate. So if anyone has any tips for any of us, I guess,
Yeah,
or like,
Yeah.
let
love
us
to know.
know.
Yeah. It's tough. Like it's easier to get someone to engage with the page than it is with what's actually on the page, in the sense that like, well, we're a band. If we post a joke, you'll interact with the joke, but you
Yeah.
might not interact with the band. How can we two bird one stone this? I don't know. I don't have the answer.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you brought up earlier about the Slipknot episode, because that episode got the most on any little thing I put on or snippet. It got the most views or anything. And I said, "Oh, great. Someone's going to listen to this because I want to do this episode." And with their advocates for mental health and just massive band Slipknot is, it got the most interaction, but the actual listens. And again, it's not about the number. I'm like, I just want to put it out, but I'm like, wait, we have this many interactions, but like nobody really. I was like, oh, so I'm glad it got a little love, because I'm like,
Yeah,
we thought that
we
one
talked
was,
about that a lot. Yeah.
yeah. So it's the same
The
thing where I'm like,
crossover is just weird. Like it'll get a lot of traction in one thing, but then they don't cross over to the podcast. It's very weird, complicated.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, everybody that's listening to this, you better go check out Old Neon. I'll have the links in the bio, everything, and we will send them your way. And hopefully somehow I'll, make my way out to a show or something. We'll figure it out. I'm out here on the East Coast, so I have to make it happen for sure.
Yeah, I know we're at the stage where we're starting to look at, other places we might be able to do weekenders in, get out of town a little bit. And so nothing anticipated yet, but we've been tossing around ideas for ways to try and come out your way. So hopefully that happens soon.
Yeah. All right. And that was our conversation with Zach Pollack of Old Neon. Remember, I'll have all links below, including Zach's website to his band, his Instagram, all that good stuff, and anything we talked about in this episode as well down below in the description. And give Old Neon a follow, because again, they're a great band, and I think they're a band that needs to be on a lot of people's radar. So definitely give them a check out, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Again, I hope the volume levels weren't too bad. I really, really worked hard to try and fix those. And moving forward, we'll just understand that this stuff could happen, right? But again, I didn't want to take away from our conversation and how just authentic this conversation was. So again, thanks so much for listening, guys. We will see you guys next Tuesday. Justine and I will be talking My Chemical Romance, and we're really excited to talk about the impact of that band in terms of music and mental health. All right. See you guys next Tuesday, guys. Bye, guys.